Hi everyone, Aidan here with etrailer. And today we're going to be taking a look at and later be showing you how to install this CURT T-connector vehicle wiring harness on our 2024 Ford Maverick. Now if you're looking to tow a trailer with your Maverick, more than likely you're going to need to add some wiring because you probably don't already have it. Now if that's the case, 4-pole wiring like this makes a ton of sense. This is the exact kit I have on my 2022 Ford Maverick, and it's worked great for the years that I've had it. And it's just going to do a simple job of transferring your lighting signals from your vehicle to your trailer, or maybe even just a hitch-mounted accessory. Nowadays, lots of bike racks and cargo carriers will come with light kits, and plugging into 4-pole wiring is going to allow you to transfer your brake lights, your running lights, and your turn signals. So if they are partially obstructed on your vehicle, or if you are towing, we can let other drivers on the road know our intentions when we're changing lanes or hitting our brakes. Now the kit's going to include this dust cap to protect your connections whenever this isn't in use, and you can use that to hang it on the safety chain loop of your hitch, but you could always opt to get a 4-pole bracket and a no-drill bracket to attach that to your hitch, say like right here, maybe angled down a bit, something like that. It's totally up to you, and you might decide to do that if you are towing more frequently just to make the setup a little bit nicer, but if you're just doing it every once in a while, having this hung up right here works totally fine, and it's going to keep things tucked up out of the way when paired up with the rest of the zip ties holding the excess in place. Now the thing I like most about this kit though is that it's completely plug and play, so you don't have to splice into your factory taillights at all. It's just going to plug right in line and be a very simple install process. Really the hardest part is just running the power wire because one, it's a bit of a shorter truck, so you will have limited space getting yourself underneath there if you are doing this at home. So I'd suggest having a couple jacks and jack stands, make sure you're doing it very safely. Or if you've got a friend with a lift, that would help you out a ton. Of course, you could always just use our dealer locator to help find a local installer to you and they can get it installed for you. And then if you've got the hybrid model like we did today, you will have a little bit more limited space in the engine bay once you do run your power wire up there. If you've got an EcoBoost, that's what I did on mine, and it had plenty of room there. And even on the hybrid, it's totally doable. It's just one of those things where space will be a little bit tighter and harder to route that wire. If you decide that this is the right kit for you though, and you end up putting it on your Maverick, we'd love to hear how you like it. You can drop a comment on this video if you have any more questions or a review to let us know how you're using it. But if you want to see what that install looks like and you want to tackle it yourself, we'll walk you through step by step what it looks like. To kick off our wiring installation, we need to remove our tail lights. Just open up the tailgate, grab yourself an 8mm socket and locate 2 bolts. Now these are going to be kind of close to the top and to the bottom right here, and that'll be the same on both sides. The housing should feel pretty loose after this, but there are 2 pins right back behind here at this 45-degree angle, so do your best to get in there and pull straight out at that 45-degree angle to release them on the top as well as the bottom. And there's a better look at those right there and there going into these locations here. But once you've got it free, find your connector, press down on this tab, and sometimes you have to push in on the connector a little bit before pulling back out and releasing it. Now in that cavity, there's going to be a spot where you can look down, and honestly you can see a ton of the ground through here, but just find a clean path and we're going to start feeding some things down through, starting with our T-connector that just leads to our green wire. I'm just going to try to keep this going straight down and out the bottom. You should be able to honestly just reach underneath the bumper and find it pretty easily. We're going to do the same thing for our 4-pole as well. For our other T-connector, I'm just going to connect to the factory side real quick, the vehicle side, until it clicks, just so this doesn't fall down to the bottom and get lost on me. But before we go further, I'm actually going to extend our power wire using the wire they provide in our kit. I'm just going to strip a little bit of this black wire back. They already have some peeled back, but I find that a little bit more exposed is helpful. And then just give everything a good twist to keep the ends of the wire together. We'll grab ourselves a heat shrink butt connector. Now your kit does come included with regular ones, but we always strongly recommend upgrading to heat shrinks since these will be exposed to the elements. Get our crimps on, squeeze down in place, and give it a good tug to make sure that the connection is solid. We'll do the same thing on the other side with our wire extension. Once that connection's made, we'll use our heat gun to shrink down that connector. Now while we're over here on the driver's side still, I'm going to mount up my black module there using the provided double-sided adhesive. Just give that a good stick. Now this won't be the only thing holding it on. I am going to utilize the provided self-tapping screw as well. This is going to just help us hold everything in place because I'm going to stick it to the side right here. This will be well out of the way of our taillights. Just give it a good push to make sure that adhesive sticks. And then I can grab my bit driver with that included self-tapper and run that through the sheet metal right there. And that's going to provide a bit of extra security, so in case that adhesive ever failed, this would stay nice and up and out of the way. We're also going to need a home for our ground wire, and I'm going to go just above that module to a factory bolt right here. Take that out with a 10mm socket. And underneath, you'll see that this isn't really too covered in paint, so I think we're going to be okay here for a good solid ground, but you may consider going through with some sandpaper if yours is a bit covered up in paint. And we'll just run that down, making sure that we hold that ground wire so it doesn't get too twisted. From there though, I'll connect the other end of our T-connector to our tail light and push down the red locking tab once you hear a good click and you've got a firm connection. We'll just take this now, tuck everything back up behind the tail light there, pop those clips in the back in, and I can reattach the screws on the inside edge. Now I routed that green wire with the T-connector over to our passenger side where we're just going to repeat the same steps we did before of plugging things in and putting our taillight back in place. Once I got this fully up in the air, I'll be sure to show you the path I took, along with the path we took for our 4-pole. So starting with our green wire, it started right over in this cavity here underneath the driver's side taillight, and it, along with our 4-pole wire, get tied up to some factory holes right here, up and over these plastic pieces, and split off right here near the hitch. I tied off all my excess 4-pole wire onto this factory hole and just ran it to my receiver tube. And the green wire for our passenger side continued up nice and high over this other plastic piece where it continued to tie off to some factory holes and spots like here and go straight up to our taillight housing. Now our black power wire comes out in the same spot right here, follows some existing lines straight back to this point where I routed it through this hole up above some of these factory lines and continue to take it nice and high up here using the factory lines to kind of suspend it up in place. We route straight across here near the fuel tank where it travels down, and you'll see I pulled down this underbody panel. That's just a series of 10mm nuts that are attached to these various studs throughout, and using that I'm able to pull this down and route this power wire all the way down. Periodically there's going to be these clips that all these other lines are running through, and there was an open one for us, so I just routed the power wire through that pretty much the entire way up until we got to this heat shield here where I ran it up and over until it eventually came out the other side right here where I can go to the engine bay and pass something down to pull this up through. From there though, we need to get that wire up into our engine bay so we can connect it to our positive terminal here and get power back to our wiring. But there's going to be pretty limited space, so what I recommend is grabbing something that's going to have some rigidity to it. We use airline tube here at the shop because we got a ton of it, but I mean, you could get like a wire coat hanger and unfurl it and get it into a nice straight line. And essentially, I just passed it straight down, hugging the firewall as close as I could. And once I got it to feed out the bottom there, near where our wiring ended, I taped it to the end and I can pull it up through. Now, you'll want to make sure you go down there and just ensure that after you pull here, that there isn't any slack remaining down there. But this will eventually wire over to this positive terminal over here, where we can take that cap back and expose the post. The important thing to know though, when you are routing this wire, is that you avoid any hot or moving parts. So, you know, like I said, space is at a limited capacity there, so you just want to make sure you avoid your suspension components once you start to get near the front here. So you want to take that power wire and figure out about how much you need to get to that positive post here for our auxiliary battery. And I'm going to cut it right about there because we are going to be putting this fuse holder in line with it. So that's going to give us a bit of extra reach, and that will give us the slack we need if we ever did need to remove this and move it around. So for me, I'm just going to cut it right there. And this is going to be the exact same process we saw earlier for stripping the wire back and attaching that fuse holder with heat shrink butt connectors again. Now on the other end of that fuse holder, instead of a butt connector, we're going to go with a ring terminal. Again, this is a piece that is provided in your kit, and that's what's going to slide over that positive post. So twist the ends, get that popped through, and we're going to give that a good crimp down. Now before we go and attach it, I will use that heat gun again to shrink this connection down while I've got a bit more control over it. Now, like everything else in this engine bay, the post here is a bit tucked away and actually really far recessed, so it's kind of hard to reach, but you're going to need to do something about it being so recessed. And what we did is we actually stacked a couple of nuts on top of it, tightened them all down one after the other to basically raise our point of attachment for our ring terminal. We're going to probably still need to trim this cap a little bit to compensate for that or accommodate it. But I'm just going to slide that ring terminal over, grab another one of those nuts, and start to snug that down. Now this is not provided in the kit, so you would need to provide this yourself since this isn't going to a normal battery post. Now with that being said, if you've got the EcoBoost engine, this is going to be fine. You'll have access to your regular battery, and you can just use the included nut on that terminal. But because we have a hybrid today, it's going to look a little bit different in here. I cut a little notch out of the side of that cover, and it snapped back in really clean. I don't have my fuse in yet, and I tied up all of my excess just right to this panel right here with a zip tie. And with all that done, ready to pop in that provided fuse. We want to do this last, so from here, things will be ready to rock and roll and we can give it a test. So let's push that down into the fuse holder, pop the cap on, and we can plug in and test our functions. And we'll just run through those lighting signals, starting first with our headlights, or our running lights, then our brake lights, our left turn with the brakes, our right turn with the brakes, and then we'll run through those turn signals without the brakes. Once we verify that everything's working, we're ready to hit the road. And that'll do it for a look at and installation of this CURT T-connector vehicle wiring harness on our 2024 Ford Maverick. My name's Aidan, and thanks for watching.